So today's topic is keeping rigor and expectations high in the culturally responsive classroom. It is Module 2, Course C, and I am Christine Del Negro. I am a literacy consultant for Solved Consulting. I am a former elementary school teacher. I taught for 11 years, and then I have been a consultant since 2013, and I have been working for Solved since 2020. And this course was developed by New York State, the State Department of Education, but it was kind of modified and streamlined by Ria Grosvenor, who is one of our consultants at Solved. So today's agenda is our introduction and warm-up. If you are just logging on, give me a second and I'm going to put the link for the slides in the chat. And if you could also introduce yourself, let us know where you teach, what you teach, and what you're hoping to get out of today's class. We're going to be looking at defining rigor and high expectations, looking at teacher and students' roles in promoting rigor and high expectations, using CRSE to promote rigor and high expectations. There's a theme. And then we'll have a wrap up with some questions. And I'm going to go back and forth between sharing my screen and not sharing my screen because I can't paste all the links when I'm sharing my screen, or I can't access them when I'm sharing my screen. So the link for those of you who may have logged on a couple of minutes ago, the link for the slides is in the chat. You will receive tomorrow a document with all of the links from today. I will be putting them in the chat as well, but you will get a list of all of the links, you will get the slides, and you should get your CTLE certificate as well. Okay, there we go. And again, if you have a question, please just put it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself because I can't see you because there are so many of you. Okay, so if there is something really strange going on with the slides today, but anyway, take a second and think about how you would define rigor and high expectations, and I am going to put I'm going to put a link in the chat to a Jamboard, and you can put your thoughts on the Jamboard. Hopefully the Jamboard, I'm going to check my share. Oh yeah, looks like it's good to go. So put your thoughts in the Jamboard as to how you would define 3 words that come to mind when you think of the terms rigor and high expectations. And for those of you that just jumped on, I will put the link to the slides in the chat for you.
I am not seeing the Jamboard link.
You're not okay. It's you may have come on after I posted it. So give me just a second. I will put it in again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It gets a little crazy with all of the links and the yeah, just in the chat. And I don't know if you guys can hear, but my landscaper every single time comes just as I'm getting underway on Monday afternoon. So apologies if lawnmowers popping up for you. Different, challenging, important. I like that. Extending student thinking, best work, cross-curricular connections. Nice. I would recommend using the post-it function. I think that's the best for visibility. Scaffolding. Different, challenging, important. Rigor, higher order thinking. Nice. Oh, Jamboard's really fun. And it's pretty easy. Some of the other ones, like Pear Deck, can be more intimidating. Jamboard is definitely, it's basically a digital post-it board, but it can work really well. Support, scaffolding, critical thinking. Oops, what just happened? Huh. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there, but I guess the frame got cleared. So if you go to the next, you can still post on the cleared frame, or the next page has the photograph, and I will see if I can repost the question. Okay, so the question's reposted. You can put your thoughts on either page. Challenging and exemplary, I like those too. Okay. All right, we are going to move on just because I am very conscious of the time. And again, I don't, my slides are, I don't know, some of them seem to be missing, but we will make the best of it. So here we go. Okay, and if you guys, if we have people coming in, which you can't see, I can see them, but if someone can every once in a while just pop the link to the slides in the chat, that would be helpful. Just because it's hard for me to manage all of it when people start coming in quickly. So the CRSE framework is an initiative by the New York State Education Department that establishes culturally responsive, sustaining guidelines for students, teachers, school and district leadership, families, and community advocates, as well as higher education and the State Education Department. I feel really fortunate to live in a state like New York right now, or actually I live in New Jersey, but to work in a state like New York, because this is not true in some of the other states in our country. So culturally responsive, sustaining education has 4 components: a welcoming and affirming environment, high expectations and rigorous learning, inclusive curriculum and assessment, and ongoing professional learning. And we are going to be focusing today on high expectations and rigorous learning. So high expectations and rigorous learning is the second principle. And these elements prepare the community for rigor and independent learning. The environment is academically rigorous and intellectually challenging, while also considering the different ways that students learn. Instruction includes opportunities to use critical reasoning, take academic risks, and leverage a growth mindset to learn from mistakes. Messages encourage positive self-image and empower others to succeed. And I think that really creating safety in the classroom, I think, is really key. Children have to feel, and teachers too, we all have to feel safe to make mistakes, to try new things, to fail and figure it out and then get better. And I think we all need to cultivate a belief that failure is just a thought. We don't have to think of failure as anything other than we tried something, it didn't work the way we expected it to. It's a learning opportunity to see what went wrong and make changes so that we can get it right the next time, or the time after that, or the time after that. So, I think really the only reason that failure is what we make it mean. And so often we just tell ourselves that if we fail, means that we're not smart, we're not good enough, we're not creative enough, we're not smart enough, whatever it is. And that's a lie. So I think for all of us, it's really important to remember that failure is just part of the process. And the most successful people are also the people that have failed the most. So for us to remember and for us to pass on to our students. Okay, I would like to share a video with you. Okay. A really short video just on what excellent looks like.
Rigorous instruction that requires students to. Rigorous instruction that requires students to, first thing, make meaning for themselves. Students have to be doing the thinking in order for it to be rigorous, and not just this controlled pseudo thinking that often happens in schools. It's about students making meaning and making meaning for themselves. The second piece is that students have to impose structure and information, because the way that we know our brains work, the act of imposing structure, the act of organizing information, actually deepens our understanding of the information. Third piece is that rigor requires students to take individual skills and put them together to create a process. If we don't show students how to take individual skills and start to put them together to create an entire process, we're cheating them of real thinking, because thinking is not disconnected skills. Thinking is about an entire process. And then the fourth thing is it requires students to apply what they've learned in new and novel situations. With this definition, now when someone says, hey, is this lesson plan rigorous? I can say, well, where in your lesson are students making meaning for themselves? Where are students imposing structure? So now all of a sudden, I've put a definition into the hands of the teacher.
Meet Grammarly Go.
So the teacher's role in rigorous instruction, having high expectations and deliver rigorous instruction for all students regardless of identity markers, including race, gender, sexual orientation, language, ability, and economic background. Reflect on your own implicit bias, how that bias might impact your expectations for student achievement or the decisions that you make in the classroom. And the steps you can take to address your biases and their impact on students. Strive to be culturally sustaining by centering the identities of all students in classroom instruction, encouraging cultural pluralism rather than asking students to minimize their identities in order to be successful. Promoting alternative achievement metrics that support, develop, and showcase academics, leadership, character development, growth mindset, and enhance social emotional learning competencies. Providing opportunities for students to critically examine topics of power and privilege, provide students with opportunities to present their peers through project-based or station-based learning to leverage student experience and expertise. Incorporate current events, even if they are controversial, into instruction. Be responsive to student experiences by providing them with space to process current events. Okay, I'm gonna stop for a minute. I'm sorry, I don't know what is that. My slides are not the right slides. Let me see if I can figure this out. Sorry, bear with me for a minute here. Because I had added some slides that I would like to make sure that I can show you. Okay, I don't know where they are. All right, and unfortunately, okay, I'm going. Guess we're just gonna move on. But I wanted to share. This is, I think I'm going to just do something a little bit different because I really did want to share this information with you. I think it's really important. So what I'm going to do for the moment, just to give myself a couple of minutes to see if I can figure this out, is I'm going to put a link in the chat that is to an article. It's an interview with Zaretta Hammond. If any of you were in last week's course, I shared a video with her. She is, I think, one of the thought leaders around cultural responsiveness. And this article is short. It's a quick interview with her about how to create more cultural responsiveness in your classroom along with rigor. So take a couple of minutes to read through that, and I'm going to see if I can figure this out so that I can show you the slides that I wanted to show you. And once you've had a chance to read through the article, just put a thumbs up, use the reactions to give me a thumbs up so I can tell when most people have finished. I found my slides. I'm very happy. And if I know a couple of you just logged in, this is the link to the slides. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. We'll give you another minute and then we're going to move on. But again, you will have all of these resources to peruse at your leisure. Okay, I am going to move on just in the interest of time. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share with you. There was a study that was done by the new teacher, TNTP, the new teacher project. I don't know. I could feel like I'm missing a letter, but anyway, so the result of the study is called the opportunity myth. And what they what they did was they partnered, and this was done in, I want to say 2019 or so. So they partnered with 5 diverse school systems. They observed almost 1,000 lessons, reviewed almost 5,000 assignments, analyzed more than 20,000 work samples, and collected almost 30,000 real-time student surveys. So they got a lot of data from a lot of different kids in a lot of different schools from, all walks of life. And here's what they found. That students spend most of their time in school without access to these 4 key resources: grade appropriate assignments, strong instruction, deep engagement, and teachers who hold high expectations. What they found was that a large number of students are successful from a grade perspective, getting A's and B's, but then they struggle if they go to college or if they, whatever they're doing out after they're done with school. And the reason, or one of the reasons for that, is because the assignments that they're being given are not really grade level appropriate. So these are some of the findings. More than 500 hours per year on assignments that were not appropriate for their grade and or with instruction that was not rigorous. They're not engaged. And while 80% of teachers supported standards for college readiness in theory, less than half had the expectation that their students could reach that bar. And, as a consultant, I have experienced that over and over again, where I have teachers telling me my kids can't do that. And that may be true in the moment, but if our expectation is that they're never going to get there, they're never going to get there. And not surprisingly, students of color or those from low-income families, English language learners, and students with mild to moderate disabilities have even less access to these resources than their peers. So classrooms serving students from predominantly higher income backgrounds spend twice as much time on grade appropriate assignments, 5 times as much time with strong instruction compared to classrooms with students predominantly from lower income. And which is not to say that students from higher backgrounds they're still not being as challenged as much as they should be. But it's, the students, the more marginalized students are being hit harder. And so these were the recommendations from the study. And again, you're going to have these slides, so I'm not going to, we need to move on, but I also wanted to include this, which, what I like what they say, which is that this is not a checklist, but it's a collection of challenging but workable solutions that school system leaders need to dig into. But talking to students about their goals and experiences and giving them a say in the process, giving greater access to grade appropriate assignments, giving students, especially those behind grade level, access to instruction that asks them to think and engage deeply with challenging material, ensure educators enact high expectations for student success by seeing firsthand that students are capable of succeeding with more rigorous material, conducting an equity audit to identify school and district level decisions from the diversity of staff at all levels to which students are enrolled in honors courses that give some students greater access than others to key resources. So there's a lot of work to be done, but you can start in your own classroom. So, this was the other slideshow that I mentioned that there was an issue with the slide. So we went through the teacher's role, and the article that you read, the interview with Soretta Hammond, also gave you some ideas around things that you can do as a teacher to ensure that your students are exposed to a higher level of instruction. So these are some suggestions, questions that you can be asking yourself. So this idea of productive struggle, I think, is really important. And I know for myself as an educator, it's very uncomfortable. When I see students struggling, I want to help them because it makes me uncomfortable that they are uncomfortable. But that is the worst thing you can do as a teacher. They have to be able to struggle. And it's not to say that so this is, I think, the issue as teachers is we need to provide them with all of the information that they need to be successful. They have to understand what they're being asked to do. They have to have it explicitly modeled for them. And when I say explicitly modeled, I mean, you need to do it in front of them. You need to talk through what your thought process is, how you got the answers that you got. They have to be able to ask questions. There's a lot that goes into that piece. They need to be given the task, be able to break it down, put it into student-friendly language. They need to really understand what they're being asked to do and why. Then, once that has been achieved, then they need to struggle with it a little bit. Doesn't mean we're not scaffolding. It doesn't mean that we're not coming in and with guiding questions, or stopping and saying, hey, I'm noticing everyone's having difficulty with this aspect of it. Let's talk about it. What does this look like? What are your questions? There's scaffolding and there's support that's going on. But at the end of the day, the students need to be doing the work. And what I see a lot of the time, done it myself, I still do it sometimes if I'm not really thinking about it, is the teacher at the front of the classroom telling the students what to do, and the students just either doing it or not because they're not engaged, and there's not a ton of learning that's going on. So we have to balance making sure that they understand what they're doing and not doing it for them. And when we do that, we're helping them foster a growth mindset, which is, I can learn how to do this. I may not be good at it today. I may not be good at it tomorrow, but I'm getting better and I'm going to get there. I'm going to figure it out because I'm smart and I'm capable. And if I fail, that's okay, because I'm going to learn from my failure and I'm going to move on. I'm going to take what I learned and I'm going to apply it and I'm going to move on. That whole mindset is so important. They have to believe that they're in control, because they are. But that's not the way they experience it a lot of the time. Okay. How can I communicate high expectations for all students from all backgrounds? Choose your words carefully. I can't is not an option. Consider where a student's mentality comes from. Engage with the kids, not the content. Let students make mistakes. A lot of the time, we've seen kids, they give up. They're done before they even walk in the door because they've been taught to believe that they can't do it. That's been their experience, and nobody has challenged that experience for them. So yeah, why would you do something when you think you're going to fail and you think that if you fail, it means you're stupid? You wouldn't. So we need to understand where their mindset comes from so that we can help them shift it. Inquiry-based learning, giving students having them take control. It's a more student-centered approach. If you're virtual, which for the most part, I don't think we are, but who knows? It's always good to know, like thinking about the questions that students are asking, the kinds of conversations that you can have virtually. What are ways of engaging students, even if you're not with them in person? Okay. Let's see. I'm going to give this a shot and put you guys into breakout rooms. We only have about 60 people, so I'm going to do about 10 or 11 rooms. You're going to, I'll give you the link. Stop. This is a link to a Google table. You're going to need to make copies of it, a copy of it. I'm going to make sure that the sharing access, yeah. And I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. Just have a quick conversation with your colleagues about how you can achieve each of these things in your physical classroom and or a virtual classroom. Okay, so we'll just take like 5 or 6 minutes. Everyone, any questions before I send you off? Okay. Does anyone want to quickly share what you talked about?
I don't mind sharing. Our group did a fantastic job. I was making the point that of the struggle it is, with some students in school. And even though the teacher might stand up there and explain, it is a problem when the teacher does not do it, first to begin with. But the point that you were making about not explaining what is the purpose of this task the kids are being given to do. What is the usefulness of it? Where is it headed? The kids are disconnected when that does not happen. But at the same token, I was making the point that sometimes when kids, I was making the point that some kids that come from certain culture we are seeing come from culture where they learn behavior at home. And from in a home, parents are teaching them to be respectful of adults and to follow tasks and to follow, they're given tasks at home first to begin with. We see that those kids are more in tune with following out along a task that the teacher is given, while some of them coming from broken homes or coming from situations where they have no respect for parents or elders, have a hard time listening to teachers and following instruction. And most people agree with me in my group. Another person in my group explained that she also sees it in Zoom classes where even if it's on Zoom or in person, the same behavior sometimes extends, regardless of what forum it's being done in.
Yeah, no,
that's my input from our group.
That's definitely true. I mean, there are many factors that go into all of this. So certainly there are emotional issues and kids coming from, different homes, and all of that factors in for sure. But I think that the more we are able to engage students and make it interesting and get them invested in, the better chances we have for, pulling even those challenging students in. I think we've probably all seen it. There's always that teacher. Like I was in a classroom, this was years ago. And this teacher, he always took the toughest kids, the kids that they were in any other classroom were climbing the walls, being disruptive, disrespectful, all of those things. And when he worked with them, they were the best class you've ever seen in your life. And it was all done through respect and just teaching them their worthiness and their value and giving them opportunities to make choices, and also having them deal with the consequences when they didn't make good choices. So it can be done. I'm not saying it's easy, and certainly we teachers can't do it alone. These kids are dealing with, a lot of them, they're dealing with trauma on so many levels, and we're not trained for all of that. So it takes a village. It's got to be a community or a school-wide effort, for sure. But thinking about, like, as teachers, what can we do in our classrooms to help keep these students engaged? But thank you for sharing that, because those are all really good points, and we can't disregard them at all, because they really are important. I wish that we had more time. But I'm just looking, express effort, not excellent, give achievable tasks, tell all students to try positive regards, and make sure all cameras are on in attendance with Zoom. Yeah, definitely. Okay, we have just 9 minutes left. So I would like to show you a quick video and I'm going to give you in the chat, there's a rubric. It's a cultural responsiveness rubric, and we're going to watch a video and just take a look at the rubric to see what you think about the level of cultural responsiveness that this teacher is exhibiting.
Big part of the 1920s was dancing. Not everyone was gathering around the TV or on their phones. They went out to dance clubs. These popular moves. Big part of the 1920s was dancing. Not everyone was gathering around the TV or on their phones. They went out to dance clubs. These popular moves, Charleston, Black Bottom, the shimmy, some of you might be familiar with. Foxtrot, still a very popular dance in the dance circle. The Lindy Hop, a little bit lesser known. We went for dance lessons. Our instructor said, hey, do you want to do a foxtrot or a waltz for your first dance? No, thank you. I'd rather not kick my wife on our wedding day. Give a nice symbol with a nice box step. Or shimmy. Looked like this back in the 1920s. Very simple. It's a nice shake of the shoulders. And nowadays we don't really think too much of that, but why might this be controversial back in the 1920s? With what she's wearing, with what she's doing, person. Consider a lot of it very explicit. She's shaking her chest, she's showing a lot of skin, which was unbecoming of a lady back then. Nowadays we see it in sports. Steph Curry gets a big three, does a little shimmy. Hillary Clinton even did a little shimmy during her debate with Donald Trump about 5 or 6 years ago. Also popular around this time. As the decade goes on, we start to see movies, although they didn't really have any sound to them. We get sound movies where someone who plays a piano, I'm not sure which is called a pianist, would play background music. The actors needed to convey their message through their facial gestures, their physical gestures. You can't say what's going on. Charlie Chaplin was the biggest one of them all. Wore a bowler hat, very thick, short mustache. Kind of gave me nightmares when I was younger, to be honest with you. Here's a short clip. What a Charlie Chaplin film looked like back then. The woman's running to catch the boat. Oh no, she got the baby on with it. Down she goes. Charlie Chaplin's gonna catch the boat. Go right over her. Pitch her out of the water. Water catcher, I'm gonna get yanked her out of the water. Very animated gestures, taking the leg. Oh, thank God, he saved her. See how he kind of conveys the message.
Okay, so the video is longer than that, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to stop it there. So take a look at the rubric, and just based on your own thoughts, what do you think about what were the, pros and cons of that lesson? And you can either put something in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying I didn't see any engagement. Some of the students, they had their heads down. So he was gesturing, he was doing different things, but he talked too much without really asking any questions. I mean, with questioning, you at least you can call one person, and then the person, they made an opinion that will generate other thoughts from different people, but he was just talking.
Yeah. So if you look at the voice criteria on the rubric, I would say, minimal, no intentionally designed places for students to work together, learn cooperatively, or share. It was a very teacher-centered lesson. Yeah, even to just do a turn and talk, what do you think, or what are you seeing in the movie? Like he walked them step by step through the movie.
If I was grading him, I would give him minimal right now because, like you said, there was no turn and talk. He did most of the talking. He didn't give students a chance to engage in discussion at all.
Yeah.
So that's the grade I would give him right now. He would be developing for me.
Yeah, agreed. Anyone else? Any other thoughts or anything that you noticed that maybe was, more positive? Oh, and I'm going to pull up the chat because no place for students to respond to information. Kids raise their hands, not noticed. Too much teacher talk, little opportunities for discussion, heard more from the teacher than the students. Yeah.
He looked so in a hurry to just finish with whatever he had prepared and get out of there. I don't get it, that I was not teaching.
And there was a student right in front of him, and the student had his head down. He didn't even address that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Oh, so nice. No way for students to show their understanding. Yeah. Where student explained the purpose and real life connection. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it looked like some of the clips that he showed, and it was hard to see them all, but they're like, I saw the basketball clip and then the Hillary Clinton and the dancing. I couldn't see the person very well. So it looked like maybe there was some attempt to engage like a wider variety of students, but it was minimal. Yeah, there was no differentiation. There was not really access. Yeah, it's like if you're looking at this rubric, you can pretty much go minimal. Higher order thinking skills, there were none. Yeah. So this is, I think, this is helpful just even in thinking about as you plan your own lessons, where can you incorporate some of these elements into your lesson? Okay, it is 3:29. I am going to put the link for the reflection form in the chat, and you guys are good to go. If you have any questions about anything that you saw today, so let me just reiterate. So the link for the reflection form is in the chat. Tomorrow, or within the next day or two, you should receive your CTLE certificate, all of the links, including the slides and the resources that were shared here. This has been recorded. If you came in late or you were having internet issues or you needed to leave in the middle of it, you can send an email to admin, and I'll put that in the chat, admin@solvedconsulting.com, and they will send you the recording as well, but that will not be sent automatically. You need to request it. If you have any questions for me about any of the resources, or someone had sent me a question in the chat before about one of the resources, and I'm going to email her something. So if you have any questions or you would like me to forward anything to you, that's not in the resources that you receive, you can email me directly. And that is it. So we are done for today. Thank you so much for coming. Please make sure that you fill out the reflection form and sign up for another class. We will be running them over the next several weeks between now and pretty much the end of June. So thank you, and have enjoy the rest of your afternoon.